Yep, the ship changed everything. I changed unions, changed my home port to San Francisco. It was, I was in the summertime. I was partying with a bunch of guys, Little Raz and all of them, down in Archie's and set in New Orleans. And I got up one morning and got a call from one of the union guys wanted me to get on a ship that needed to leave immediately. And it was an SUP ship, and I didn't know what they were anything about it. I didn't know they were affiliated with SIU at all. They needed an AB, so I went down and got aboard her. It was a Peabody. It was a little Liberty ship, lumber ship that shuttled coastwise, East Coast, West Coast, through the canal. Anyhow, when I got aboard, it was a nice-looking little ship, and my mate that was in my forecastle with me was named Rosen. He was a little Jewish boy that I guess they had prejudice against because that guy that left there apparently didn't want to sail with him, and I couldn't understand that. He's a nice man, and I got along good with him. I never had that type of attitude towards any race. So anyhow, we made a good trip out of it. We ended up leaving New Orleans, going through the canal, going up to Aberdeen, and I think we went to Coos Bay. And I think that's all we did. And then we came back and went up to Boston and Baltimore and a few ports up there and we dropped lumber and picked up some deck load coming back of yachts and boats and other things that were made up there that were carrying back to California down to Pedro. And we came back through the canal and dropped them off, unloaded the boats and all that. And I went into the Oakland. I guess we went into Oakland or somewhere up there. And Union came on board, and they wanted me to change over, so I swapped books, B books, I guess they were called in those days, and that was Union. So I paid Union dues to SUP, and they transferred me all over to the SUP. And we're left there and going back up to Aberdeen, I think it was. And on the way up, one of the mates was saying, why don't you just become a mate? Why don't you go and get a third mate's license? And I said, well, I never thought much about it, but maybe you're right, maybe I should. He said, well, hell, it's nothing to it. He said, I can give you a letter of recommendation, and that'll be enough. You go to the Coast Guard, and we'll go ahead and once you go to School of Navigation there in San Francisco, I think it was called Dobie's School of Navigation. Get the bodies, get your book, and study it. You can pass that exam. I don't feel sure you could. So I started studying it. I picked the book up when I was back in Baltimore next trip. That Body's book on navigation, celestial navigation, and ship rules. So I started reading all that, and I figured I'd just become a mate. Of course, that petered out after I paid off on the ship. Decided not to. I got too busy chasing women and doing other things of interest. But anyhow, the trips back and forth between the canal were interesting, and it was fun. And the ship was a nice ship, good crew. The ship was awful slow. Lucky we were doing 10 knots. You could almost troll on that. In fact, I knew an Hawaiian on there I met, old Kanaka, that trolled off the back of it. We caught a mai. If we didn't tear their heads off, we could save them, but we ate them on board ship because of mai off the Gulf of Tehuantepec on there on the Baja California coast. And it was a lot of fun just doing stuff like that, but nothing real adventurous. I had a bicycle with me at the time because I like riding bikes at times, and so I'd take off and make little trips here and there. I never did go out much for women or anything because I never cared for American women too much in those days. They were too stuck up on themselves, and they only interested in getting married, and I had none of those intents. So anyhow, like I said, I rode the bike all up in the Northeast and Northwest and enjoyed it. It was kind of fun, got to meet local people. And most of the time, loading lumber and all that was done by the longshoremen down there. We didn't have much to do. So we had time off in these ports. And only thing I remember real outstanding, one time I was in Boston, we were docked in Castle Island out there, went across the bridge, went in town, and went to a movie, an old Dr. Zhivago was showing. And I went in that movie house and go watch that movie. And I sat down next to a lady. I didn't think about it much, but she was a middle-aged lady. I was in my 20s still. And the movie got real sad. She started crying and leaning on me and wanting me to comfort her and all that. So I did during the movie. I never thought about it. Never even got her name or nothing. And at the end of the movie, said goodbye and left. It was a real intimate time, I guess, with her. But that's about the only time I ever contacted any women on that trip. But it was a lot of fun. I watched TV. We got to watch TV because we were so close to the shore that we could pick up TV stations on the way down. And so played the lottery a couple of times in the Panama Canal. They had not in Cristobal, Panama City. They sold us some lottery tickets. We could check on it on the way back through the next trip down and around. Well, we stayed on there a couple of months and paid off in San Francisco, and that's where I decided to stay and checked in at Arlington because I'd been there with Frenchie one time before, and the Vietnam War was breaking out, so that was about time to catch all these victory ships to go the Far East and go down to Saigon and Vietnam and all the places over there in the east, the Far East. So that was our next adventure, even though there's more adventures I haven't told you about while I was still SIU and sailing to South America and Europe. We can all just put them all together, I guess. Anyhow, that's about all on the changeover from one union to another. See you later. Bye now, boys.